they've been kind of focused on a bunch of other things like, the water fluoridation and child chronic diseases and, things like that, overprescription of drugs, ultra processed foods, but they haven't really gotten to the issues of how to help all these vaccine injured people. And it's a colossal amount of money that would have to be doled out. I mean, have to redirect the whole defense industry, at this point.
What are the estimates of the, number of people injured specifically by COVID vaccine?
It's millions. It's millions. I don't know. That's a good question. I think there are lots of different, depends on what categories. Like, for example, when you look at heart problems, so many of the myocarditis cases are subclinical, so they manifest as either very mild symptoms or no symptoms at all. So the only way you would know that somebody with subclinical myocarditis has the condition is you'd have to measure their troponin levels, which is this cardiac stress protein, cardiac troponins. And then you'd have to put them through, the other diagnostic tests that are required for myocarditis. So because the passive reporting system doesn't pick up so many of these cases, you don't really know who's impacted. And the same thing with like lymphomas, it may not manifest until 2 or 3 years down the road, and then it wouldn't be linked with the vaccine, And that's a general problem with the fact that, and this is a really key concept, that we know these spike proteins now persist in the body and are persistently synthesized for at least 3 years. And so knowing that, how do you make causal connections? I mean, it's very...
Well, how can they say that? You would think the efficacy then should be for 3 years, because supposedly the production of the spike protein is what creates the immune response and what protects the person. So why would the length of time that they're effective not be 3 years then?
The immune system response takes 2 weeks to generate sufficient antibodies. So you're raising a very important point. You're talking about efficacy versus safety. So efficacy would be what is the optimal antibody production that you see generated by the COVID shots through the spike protein production. And so the cells are generating the spike protein, the antibodies are produced in response to the spike protein, and that is considered to be to go into effect fully 2 weeks after the second shot. Okay, so in the primary series. But the problem is that those antibodies wane. The production of that protection wanes very quickly. It drops off after only 3 to 5 months. For older people, it's like 2 months. So the protection, that supposed theoretical protection that's provided by these shots, is very, very brief. But the harms, which is what we're talking about with the 2 to 3 years, and like I said, we have case reports now showing it's 3 years that you see the spike protein generated. Those are harms because that the spike protein that was generated 3 years ago is not generating antibodies that are neutralizing. They're not neutralizing any COVID, that any Omicron variants that are currently present, because that ship has sailed. Those Omicron variants that we have now have no bearing at all on the original shots that were given. You see what I'm saying? So it's really, the efficacy is a short-lived phenomenon, but the harms are extended because they outlive. So anytime you hear risk benefit in public health conversations about the COVID shots, they're always talking about short-term benefits. They're talking and short-term harms. They're not talking about long.
Sure, here.
Yeah.
If I get 2 shots and then they give me what's called supposedly a booster 6 months later, I was still producing spike protein from the first 2. Now, am I producing a slightly different, altered type of spike protein, and now their production has ramped up double to what it was because the old one's still producing? Or what do you think happens with the 2?
So you're asking whether the spike protein itself changes over time?